Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Taco Tuesday. And I don't mean the Trump taco thing, I just mean Taco Tuesday. We just have to have Taco Tuesday. Good morning, John. Good morning, Patrick. Good morning, Sterling. What else do we have? Thank you for putting this in, Sterling. The Japan's chief trade negotiator about they want the deals with autos and they're not going to give away everything because with agriculture. You know what? Trade deals are tough. That's why they take a lot of time. Because also countries got to keep their best interests in mind too. They're just not going to sign something and be bullied into it. But glad your VIX call spreads are in September. Now remember, for people, just going to throw this out there. I've mentioned it before. I always look to hold stuff, even if I have September stuff. I also look to roll into October. Expiration October is my key thing uh, for holding volatility moves, because you get a lot of potential volatility in September and October. So I always like to time stuff if I'm especially hedging the portfolio. I like to hold it into October. So if I have spreads earlier than that or anything set up, I look to roll it into October. Just a little tip there. OD Green, good morning. Good morning, Bull Strike Cheetah. Good morning, David Atkins. Good morning, Royal Palms. Sure, just remind me, Royal Palms, because I'll forget because I get focused on the markets. Good morning, Jacob. Good morning, Martinez. Good morning, Tony. Good morning, Anissa. Good morning, Harold. All right, we got those out of the way for now while other people filter in. Again, very quiet week in terms of announcements. Good morning, Rick. All right. Uh, Rick, what was your old handle before the password fiasco? What was that? I forget what it was now. What was your old YouTube handle name? Can we look at copper intraday? We'll get to. All right. We'll get to, again. This channel's for you. Channels for you guys and gals. I just use guys as euphemism, but it's guys and gals. Okay. So, what else we had? I have to do a refresh. All right, Redbook, a nice little pop in Redbook. Business optimism index coming in just slightly below previous and slightly below consensus, but nothing major there. What else do we have? We have consumer credit change, minor, and that's really it for today. Remember, we got FOMC minutes tomorrow, but again, there's not much. Everything's going to be tariff talk, tariff talk. Uh, yeah, the Mag7 slightly stronger this morning. Chips are definitely stronger this morning. Banks pulling back. J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo all pulling back. What else? Other than that, it's slightly mixed to up, slight positive. If we look at the sectors, consumer cyclical. I mean, that's leading at 40 basis points, 38 for technology. Dragging is utilities with rates climbing. Remember, utilities are very interest rate sensitive. Consumer defensive. So, little more positive tone today. Am I going nuts on anything to the upside? No. Reward to risk is horrible. We also are, again, end of wave counts, to mark potential sell setups, and we have one pullback day. So, and just on that, I mean, I'll go through that again a little bit more in a second. We still have the pause in July, then the cut in September. Fear and greed still an extreme greed. Schiller P just back slightly below 38. This market's not cheap, and anything I would do to the upside would be very short, like intraday only. What else? We have some things after close, but no, I don't even know what Penguin Solutions is. Again, Thursday, Delta. I mean, not that it's going to be market moving, but that's probably the biggest thing. Uh, you know, so we don't even have that to deal with this week. All right, we've got a little pullback close to the daily rotation zone. 4 hour. We finally got a close yesterday. A little ABC panic correction. That's why I'm still watching for some potential. We might get a little more bounce today. But again, this is intraday only. I can't stress that enough. If we get above 6,375, so just 6,300 on a closing basis, and that would at least be a 1 hour, preferably a followed through with a 4 hour. That's the only way that maybe I could hold a little longer for a return to 63.11, 63.32. But that's scalpy only. Again, so why? Because I'm looking for something a little bigger pullback. We got daily cycles going down, weekly still super stretched from the 8 EMA. Now, can this just pause for a few weeks, let maybe drift lower, pause, and let the 8 EMA catch up? Yeah. But if that starts happening, then as the 8 EMA approaches the price, I'll get more bullish. And why do I say reward to risk is not good for short-term stuff right now? Just let's look at where it is in relationship to the rotation zone. When you get really overextended, let me find a good one. When you get really overextended, like here, you see how overextended we got? And then, I actually remember this in January 18 quite well. And then, boom, complete snapback, actually through the rotation zone all the way back to 50 EMA. A little rally, then another snapback. So, when we get really extended, and this is pretty much the most extended we've been since that time on a weekly basis. All right? So could we easily, I'm not saying we have to return to the 50 right now, but do I want to be, for short-term stuff, do I want to be loading up here when we could easily drop back in the weekly rotation zone, or do I want to save my powder for the weekly rotation zone? I mean, we got cycles pinned to the top, still very overbought, daily cycles finally rolling over. That's where I'd rather be patient. I don't need to capture every move. There could be some minor moves to the upside, but not for holding. All right. It was Richard. Okay. Hey, Charles. Good morning, PMG. Just keep that in mind. You don't have to squeeze every last penny out of every last move. Sometimes you're not going to sell the highs and buy the lows. You're looking to take the chunks out of the middle. And right now, where's my middle move? We pull back to that weekly rotation zone. I've got then some upside. So, NASDAQ, same thing. Not as overextended, but it's pretty overextended. I mean, it's not the most overextended NASDAQ's been from the 8 EMA, but it's pretty overextended also. Cycles rolling over. Actually, we're getting divergences, so waning momentum as it stair steps down. Again, little ABC correction right here. Breaking above it, but here's really what I got to start seeing. If we start doing this, the key is 22,981. 22,981's got to close above that on a 4-hour basis. And then I'd just be targeting 23,020 area and 23,060 to the upside. Okay. By the way, I forgot to go over to S&P to the downside. If we do drop back down, I'm still looking. We got some pretty key support around 6,265. We start getting below that. I'm looking for yesterday's lows. There's a lot of support in here. The only thing that then I'll start really watching for breakdown plays below 6230 area. NASDAQ, I'll really start watching for more substantial breakdown plays below 22,686. We start breaking down this morning. The first key support is about 22,840, and then yesterday's low. 22, right around 22, what was it, 22,779. The Dow, we triggered a double top yesterday. You can see it right here, the 1-hour trigger. And then we just followed through. And it was done. So that's already over. That does not mean the pullback in the Dow is necessarily over. So now it's negative across the rotation zone. So again, I'm still looking for a bigger pullback, including the Dow. Now, it is against the 8, so we could easily see a bounce today, but then I'll be looking for rollover plays. We completed the little mini double. The key area now today, if you're looking, would have to sustain it. It hasn't even got to the 50% harmonic yet. So even on a rally, 44,780 to 44,867, I'll be looking for sell setups again if it can even get there. The Russell again, little ABC correction. If we start breaking below this base, we tested a little higher yesterday, but there's a pretty strong base about 22.14. We start breaking below that, I'll start focusing on the bigger pullback in the Russell. Other than that, same difference. Same thing with the Russell. The key area I'm looking at right now, I'll be watching for a rollover play between 2247 to 2256. Only going to be looking for more sustained minor bullish stuff above 2256 roughly. All right. The VIX, again, remember, the VIX can stay. We also have a lot more volatility selling back in here. That's another reason the VIX is getting crushed. Sell vol and roll it into the equities. So the vol sellers are back. Would I be an aggressive vol seller down here? No, I would not. But that's what a lot of these automated strategies are doing right now. DAX, we still have the potential bigger weekly double top, which if it were to trigger, it would be out of the way of the weekly rotation zone. In front of that, for the DAX traders, this is still part of the up move, so that does not invalidate it, but we do have a mini double within a double. So I'm still watching for the DAX to still return to possibly about 24,326 area, but would not be aggressively bullish here. The thing that would start getting me interested to the downside again would be a close below 23,724, which could be a front run pattern for the potential bigger double. Other than that, the trend is still up with the rotation zone. So cannot get aggressively short or even looking for, unless we get a shorter term pattern up here, which we don't have yet. The bigger pattern is 23,764. The notes, nice big pullback. On any bounces here, these are getting close to oversold. The cycles are at bottom. I will be then looking for sell setups in the notes and buy setups in the yields. Why? Still cycles climbing. Now they are overbought, but look, with the tariff stuff going on, yields are starting to climb again. They think, the markets think that this is going to at least have some kind of bump potentially in inflation. And the yields are going to have to be higher because of that. So we broke above the trend line yesterday. We're going to get the first cross rotation zone. We're back in this yield range that we sat in for a while. Again, this is, if you take the bigger picture, we are back in this key upper band area. We really have to start getting above 445. We may stall out there and then get a pullback and start chipping away at that again. But that's what I'm looking for on pullbacks. We'll be looking at the micro yields. The 30-year, you can see here, clearly broke out of the channel to the downside. Broke out on last Thursday, followed through with Monday and Tuesday. Now we're in the rollover zone, very key. So any rollover in here, though, I'll be looking for the yields to start climbing on the 30-year after a potential pullback. And the key area of the 62.5 is 4.996, so right in front of 5. And you can see just on pure price action, look how many times it poked above that. It broke above that back in May. Then it dipped below, and look, it struggled to get back above that multiple times. So I'm really focused on that area in the 30-year. Crude, not yet to watch for that reconnect with the 200. Other than that, there's not much. We had, let's see, gold not doing anything. Short term, I'm still very patient on gold right now. Copper, first, we can go down to intraday, but right now, it needs to stay above 4.93 for me to remain in looking for a potential setup. Is there anything yet? No. There is no solid pattern. We're getting rejected by the 4-hour rotation zone. So if I was looking for a bullish move intraday, it'd have to be above 506 unless we can pull back and hold $5. If we can hold $5 and start building a base there, I'd be interested. If we can't hold $5, back to 493 for me. Because now we're against the rotation zone and it's been rejected a few times. Rejected here, rejected the last 2 bars. Pretty abrupt rejections. So if it cannot hold and establish a low right around $5, I'm looking for the, again, back to 493 area. Who asked for copper? Who asked for copper? There you go, Martinez. If you wanted something else, let me know. Dollar index. We still have cycles going up. This is trying to put in. We've got, look at all the waning momentum on the weekly. Now, do we have a killer strong pattern yet? No, but one thing I am watching is we broke above. You see here, weekly percent B buy, which we broke above. So now I'm looking for follow through this week to close above last week's high. That would be a percent B buy on a weekly basis. All right. Which could easily return it into the weekly rotation zone. Euro, because I'm going to be paying attention to the weekly percent B buy on the dollar. I'm also looking for this. We don't talk about the sell setups. And for sell setups, I look for them for commodities and percent B sell setups. Same setups. It's just at a minimum, it has to be above 1. I like it above 110 personally. And then that sets up the low. So last week's low is key. Why don't I use it? I don't use sell setups on percent B for financial futures. I use it for trailing stops. I use it for trailing stops, but it's just the inverse. But for commodities and FX, I will look for percent B sells. We just don't focus on it as much in here. So I'm watching for the euro to see if it closes below last week's low. So it's already trying, it's flirting with that area. It's flirting with that area. And if we break down, look at this clear path move. First key thing, if we continue lower in the euro, I'm watching the bottom of the rotation zone. And then I'm looking for the prior breakout zone about 115.80 and then to the end of the clear path, back to 114. It's really got to get through this rotation zone. If we rotate up and get through this flag, I will be very much more patient on any euro shorts. Also, look at the yen. Here's your 40-year yields in the yen. Remember when we talked about this and it got vertical up? We came back vertical down into the base before, and now we're breaking out strongly again. So I'm watching again. You might not be wanting to trade this, which is fine because I'm not personally trading the Japanese 40-year yields, but I'm keeping an eye on it because this is another thing. Remember, we ran up just as the U.S. yields ran up in May. Now our yields are rising, and so are Japanese yen. And a lot of things, keep an eye on the yen's not doing much yet. But if the yen really starts weakening and can get above this 147 area, I'm going to be starting to look for pullback plays and potential longs in the yen. That is the cash yen, not the yen futures. In the futures, it would be shorts. Spiders. Pulling back, same thing. Just do the same analysis as with the futures. So here's what I would do. Look for the harmonics. If you're going to remain bullish on and looking for bounce plays, 622 would be my first target area. and then be looking for rollovers between 622 and 623.12. If I did not get a sell set up in there and we closed above 623.12, I'd be looking potentially for the gap fill before the next rollover. So that's how I'd structure that in the spiders. And this is also, if this does roll over and break down, here's where you can also use your harmonics. For breakdowns below yesterday's lows, a first key area for me would be somewhere around 616.83, where you got a bunch of recent tails, and then about 615.75 area where you got a bunch of tails prior, and then I'd be looking for the gap fill. Other than that, if you're trying to do something shorter, this is just a rotation back up. If it gets bullish in the open, again, my key thing is 622. Qs, I don't need to go through this again so much, but the key areas, I'll just rattle them off. Right around 553.42, we're trading just above there on the gap up. So the next key area is 554.34. Other than that, if we remain below that, I'll look for potential sell setups. If we close above 554.34, I'll be looking for a possible retest of the high area from last Thursday. Bitcoin, not much to talk about there, just in the sideways consolidation, holding key support in the rotation zone. So would not be looking to short anything with Bitcoin right now, unless we start breaking below this 107.300 area. We had a request for AMD. AMD finally getting a pullback. We are still overextended. I'm personally watching. I have alerts set lower than this. I'm watching for a bigger pullback closer to the weekly rotation zone personally, and closer towards the bottom of the daily rotation zone, just because it's so overextended. I don't have proper reward to risk, but I am looking for more pullbacks in AMD. That we're just not there yet on any bounce play like we're getting a gap up today. The key thing, if you're looking to trade this in the bullish side in the short term, first target would be 140.60 area. It's got to get above 142.41 if I was going to hold anything, and there's a gap fill still left behind that's in front of that 142.41. So it might do a gap fill. If it can sustain more of an up move, that gap fill would be key, and it could peter out there. So if you're looking for any short-term bullish stuff, that's what I'd be focused on. I'm focused on still more pullbacks and being very patient with stuff right now. So the S&P is too far from the 200 to go on. Fair enough. I think it's overextended just on stuff. If we get back to the 200, that's going to freak a lot of people out in the short term. But is it possible? Sure. If we got back there, I'd love that in the short term. In my quest to find more value plays, I have found Calm. It is closed above the 62.5, has an all-time high in the weekly, and a dividend of 6.70 and a PE of 5. Take a look. I'm so relaxed now. I feel calm. I do. I've looked at Cal-Maine Foods before. I really like this. I looked at this the other week. I actually have alerts on the other platform set on any pullbacks to 200. I really like this stuff around the 200. And Sterling is correct. If you look here above my head, let's raise this up. P to E, 5. Dividend yield, decent. I just got to be picky where I buy this thing. And it's not necessarily a long-term hold for me yet. We are, again, Sterling is correct, above the 6.2 and 8. Nothing would invalidate this. The only way I'd stop looking for buy setups in this is if it got back below this key area of 88. Other than that, like it really close if you're not in it yet. this thing moves around a fair amount. You got the rising 200, so I keep an eye on that. If you get a pullback to 95, 96 area, it could be interesting if you're looking for something there. I just like the symbol calm. What is my pullback target on AMD? Personally, my pullback target, I'm looking at closer to, I'm going to tell you it's right around 128 to 130. That's what I'm looking for, because also cycles at the top. And that does not just mean I blindly buy. That's where I'll sit up and I'll start saying, hey, I'm going to start watching for daily and 4-hour patterns. Why? Because could it pull back even closer to the bottom of the rotation zone? Yes, but anywhere starting 128 to 130 is where I'm starting to look for. We have the 200, we have the rising rotation zone, we have a 50. That's where I'd be starting to look for plays for another bounce. You can even see I have a line here to see this is my first. This does not mean a buy. This means, hey, I want to start looking at it. Other than that, I'm not really focused on it, because this thing has weekly cycles turned over. I'd rather miss a little bounce than get in early and then try to have to ride it down. So that's how I do things. A lot of things I'll set alerts, and then I still need, whether it's a percent beat buy, whether it's a double bottom, I follow some other things, like I call it an ice cream trade. I'll look for a entry. If I don't get a setup there, then I'll set an alert at a little lower level. Intel. Intel is just, I mean, it's personally a mess to me right now. So I have not been actually looking at Intel because there's no dividend play anymore in it. So personally, and there's no great setups. If we go out to the weekly, it's just trying to build a base. But personally, I need Intel to start at least getting a back above 25, and then it could be a trade for me, but it has to sustain above 25. How your Bitcoin doing? I already covered Bitcoin. Coco, you should have been in here earlier. Can you take a look at Wolf? Well, that's ugly. Oh. Personally, I don't do bankruptcy plays and everything else, so there's too much unknown with bankruptcy plays and how that's all going to play out, and I really have to do in-depth analysis on that. Just if you're looking, I personally wouldn't touch this thing unless it can base above the form a solid base pat and get the weekly rotation zone out of the way. All right, looking at the open. Again, pay attention, especially if the S&P starts breaking short term around 62.75 if we can't hold that. Let's see where the tick opened. Very neutral tick opening. Very neutral tick opening. So I'm just being super cautious for anything bullish. So that's where we stand. I don't have much else to talk about. I am being very patient in these markets. I mean, we got gamblers just playing this. Again, I'm not interested in a short squeeze in a bankruptcy stock because there's too much stuff that can still get wiped out. All right, with that, I shall talk to everyone tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful trading day. Bye for now.